Hey there, my name is Lisa Nickel, and welcome to the Sacred and Rooted podcast. On this podcast, we explore a wide range of topics from how to deepen your connection with the divine to how to make your day to day life work better for you, all through mindset, spirituality, cyclical living, and my personal favorite, meditation. My wish for you is that you live a life you are excited about on a soul level, where you feel grounded, where you feel divinely powerful, and most of all, free to be you. I hope you enjoy the show. The music for my podcast is created by my beautiful sister, Sarah Russell. Her contact info is in the show notes. Hey there, it's Lisa, host of the podcast. Nice to see you here. Welcome back. I have my candle lit, and so I'm all ready to dig into this episode with you. This episode is called Why Meditation is Awesome for Your Mental and Emotional Health. And this is part one of a 3-part series. The second episode will be physical benefits, and the third one will be spiritual benefits. And I wanted to do this series because meditation in my life has been like the quality and the meaning and the satisfaction that I have in my life has immensely increased since I became a regular meditator, since I learned, since I went through teacher training, since I've been doing meditation. And way back before then, I was always a keen student of, the metaphysical, spiritual texts. It's been something that I've had a lifelong interest in. But actually doing meditation and experiencing meditation has been life-changing for me. And I know it also is for thousands and millions of other people on the planet. And I just wanted to kind of put it in some super succinct, ways, 3 podcasts, so that it's there for you to reference. It's there for anybody you know to reference if they are curious about it but haven't really tried it yet. Or tried it, but it got away from them. They haven't done it in months and years, maybe that kind of thing. Because starting a new habit is, it's tricky. I understand that. I am not the easiest one at starting new habits. For me, it sort of is a multiple attempt situation where I start something. I do it for, a couple weeks, maybe a month, something else happens and it throws my new, health and wellness commitments out the door and I'm off to whatever I was doing before. But it seems to be after, if I give myself grace and I'm not really hard on myself as far as, like, why can't you just stick with something? What the heck is wrong with you? I haven't done that in ages now because I've decided I'm too old for that crap. So, I notice, oh yeah, Elise, you haven't been, for example, right now I'm working in gym time into my life. And so I've been doing that probably for, I think since Christmas, earnestly. And my partner made me up a little workout routine. So I have a sheet of exercises and I can literally just check them off and then I'm done. Listen to a podcast or two while I'm doing it. It's very enjoyable. But until recently, I would do it, once a week, once every 3 weeks, once, a couple times a week. Then maybe I'd skip another month. It was very, not very routine. But now, recently, I've actually noticed that I've had a turn. I think I've gotten over the hump, and I'm actually noticing that I'm craving it, where I'm thinking to myself, oh yeah, I need to make it to the gym today or tomorrow or sometime this weekend, and which is good because when my body is craving it, then I know I've got it. It's going to be a part of my life, which is yay. And so meditation can be the same way because at least at the start of my experience with it, it was a little, it's always something extra because if you haven't done it before, it's not your regular thing. Um, and and so it takes a while, when you have extra time, you're like, oh yeah, I should meditate. And but like when you don't have extra time, then it's the first thing to get chucked out the door. So be easy on yourself, keep at it. It's magical what can happen when you really get into it. And so I would encourage you to give it another try. And if you need reasons to, here's one episode that will give you sort of a brief introduction to the mental and emotional benefits you can receive through meditation. A meditation practice, not just, maybe one meditation, but a practice. So, while I was doing my digging around the internet, I have a few studies to put in the midst of all this other stuff that I'm going to explain to you or like outline to you. But to just start off in general, the Mayo Clinic recommends meditation, as a simple and fast way to generally reduce stress, which obviously has a ripple effect because if we kind of overlap into the physical benefits, there is a lot of health benefits to meditation, and the way we see the health benefits is through the reduction of stress, because obviously, as humans, we were never intended to feel stress all the time. Back in the law, way, way back, it was meant to be something where, if you're stressed, you are literally being chased by an animal, or you're stressed and you're about to get shot. I don't know, whatever. Like some really extreme life events, not just, now people are stressed because of their husbands or wives or their boss or, their children. And so we have a lot more stress in our lives, just like all the time and for lengths of time. And so to get rid of that, meditation just kind of settles that down, because when we are stressed, our mind starts to just chirp to us all the time. And so that causes a lot of anxiety, feelings of overwhelm, like you're not sure how to get, how are we going to get through this? How am I going to figure this out? And so when our ego mind is let loose in our minds, it is really it's very annoying, and it's very stressful, because we all are just here looking for inner peace, right? And inner peace, literally, like in our minds, is sometimes very hard to find. And when we do find it, it is gold. So generally speaking, meditation has been found to reduce anxiety and overwhelm, because through meditation, you are able to quiet the mental chatter. And, eventually, yeah, just kind of get rid of it altogether. Not permanently, but during meditation. Um, and so it's just such a relief. And the silence is gorgeous. So if you're somebody who notices, you're kind of exhausting yourself with your mind, just, doing flips in your head, maybe you're not sleeping as well because you've got your thoughts are racing a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of things out in the world today that are chaotic, changing. We're in sort of the messy middle of it, or like I've heard a lot of people refer to it as like the birth canal, where it's, the baby hasn't come out yet, but you're in the like pain and darkness of like right beforehand. And so it's like not, you're not sure how it's going to look when you come out the other end, right? And so we don't have a lot of answers. We don't know what, how it's going to look in a year or two. And so that can cause a lot of anxiety. And meditation can help with that. And it is a tool that's free. It's available. You can go online and find endless meditations for anything you want. Or you can pay teachers to kind of curate an experience for you. And whatever, you can also just sit in your backyard and take deep breaths. As a very basic first, way in, is just sit on the grass, close your eyes, take deep breaths, and listen to nature around you. Uh, Anyways, that's a couple of the first few things. The meditation is also a great way to increase your patience. Uh, if you have kids, this is excellent, extremely valuable information. I noticed it when my kids were little. You're tired, you came home from work, you're kind of on the end of your amount of patience for the day. And so, there's it's just impatient, you're not available for different chats or different attitudes depending on how the kids' days went. And so there's something to be said for meditating. When I started doing it regularly, I did notice that there was a gap between me experiencing something, like, so my kid would say something to me, and maybe before, my tendency would be to just come right back with like a smart remark, or like, I don't have time for this right now, maybe later, something like that. um but as I got into regularly meditating, I realized that I was taking a extra couple of seconds in choice to decide how would be a better way to respond to whatever they were bringing to me. And that was really neat because it was a very practical tool. I knew I could see the difference, and it made a big difference with my kids and how I've raised them over the years and how I've shown up as a mother, because it's helped me. It's given me space to actually I've cultivated more patience, and with more patience, you're able to conscientiously or consciously respond to things instead of being in, kind of stressed, overwhelmed vibe, and just like not available for discussion, not available for whatever they're trying to, whatever idea they have for what we should do this evening, that kind of thing. So, and at work, anywhere in your life where you think, yeah, I just need maybe a little more patience with that would bring out sort of the best in me. Meditation could be a tool in your toolbox for that. The other thing meditation does that's really important is that it centers you and your soul and your heart's desires and your curiosities, instead of centering, external demands and approvals. And so that is also crosses over into spiritual benefits, but I'll put it here as a little bit. Because when we have our life is supposed to be based on what our heart desires and what our soul desires. And in our society, we've flipped it all the way around. And, it's like, what does my boss need from me this week? What does society think I should do next? What does my mom think I should do next? There's so many, different people that we allow to have a really high amount of input in our lives, which they should not have. Um, we should be the ones that are deciding for ourselves, like, what is the thing I want to do? Where do I want to, what hobby do I want to have? What am I really interested in that I'd like to learn more about? Um, Anything like that should come from you first. Like, inside, we check in with ourselves, and then we go out in the world. And, obviously we care about what people think to some degree, but it's not over and above what we think about ourselves and how our soul feels about our decisions. That should be of utmost importance. And so through meditation, you're getting to know yourself. Literally, maybe you have never truly spent time in silence with yourself and just checked in and said, you know, how's it going? How's it going in there? And this is not something that's going to happen um, necessarily in, the first week that you start meditation, but this is a relationship. So it builds and builds, and your intuition, your desires become easier for you to recognize when you are available to hear them and to feel them and to honor them even. So yeah, so basically you get clear on you, who you are, who you want to be in the world, who you want to be in this life, what are you here for? And less distracted, way less distracted with the 3D world, which I can say ties back to the first few points where we are so distracted by the 3D world at this point with all of the insane amounts of information available to us that we can listen to, that we can watch, that we like literally your whole day could be spent with chatter, whether it's on the internet, whether wherever it is, and just so distracted. And so it does really fog um, the clarity that can be found when you allow yourself to turn off from some of those things and just have some time on your own. Or even in a group. Like, I mean, if my kids were still little, they're not anymore. So I'm going to try this with them, but they're teenagers, so I don't have too much. I'm not sure it's going to work. But I have, if I had started this way back when they were little babies, I would have been a little. You could do it with your kids and just say, we're going to have, like 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, depending on how old they are, of silence. We're just going to close our eyes and we're going to think of fun things, daydream, however you want to position it. You could even say meditation, and we're just going to, enjoy the silence. And kids, when they're young, they absorb so much. And I think you could really start a beautiful habit in your child's life that way. Um, I did not quite get into meditation when they were that young, so unfortunately, or fortunately, it all sort of works out in good timing. But at this point, they're headed off to university and they're in high school, so they'd probably roll their eyes at me first and be like, "Okay, are you serious? Do we have to?" Anyway, they will probably come back to it at some point. We did used to do meditations with when they were kind of in middle school, because in middle school they're still pretty like malleable too, as far as thinking that I'm the greatest source of information of all time as their mother. But it sort of takes a deep decline in teenage years, so they will come back to it. Like they have been they have experienced meditation. It just obviously isn't something they're doing right now. Anyways, that'll be something for them to say. They can tell that story later when they're adults. Anyways, very distracting. This world is extremely distracting. And I don't know if anyone does human design, but no, I'm not a reflector. I'm a projector. And so I realized when I found human design that I do take in a lot more energy than maybe some other more wide, more typical types of groups of in the human design thing. I think there's manifesting generators, manifestors, projectors, reflectors, and I don't know if there's any more. But so I'm a reflector, so I always wondered why I like enjoyed the silence or just on my own time so much. And that really put it into a different perspective that I'd never thought of before. And so it's just learning about yourself. Like if you didn't have any of the distractions that we have in our world right now, what would you be like? Like what would you do? And some people may not even know. So this is all part of meditation, contemplation, just to kind of get to know yourself and really become through that clear on who you are, like what you need, what you don't need, what are you about, what are you being pulled towards as a job, as a vocation in this lifetime. All right. And so, with all that, um, finding the courage or the boldness or the dedication to do something that your heart and soul desires, it's no longer something you have to force because it's almost like you're taking inspired action, and your courage is coming from like an unlimited source. Your dedication or commitment to something is coming from an unlimited source. And so you don't actually have to expend as much energy forcing yourself to go to a job that you don't even like, that's so boring or doesn't really like, it just doesn't light you up. That takes so much more energy than going to a job that lights you up, that you're excited about, that, you know, you've dreamed of, that anything like that. And the same thing goes to, friends that might be energy sucks, that, maybe they were fun back in university or whatever, but it's not really the same anymore. And so, but we maintain things as like almost like a habit of just a habit, I guess, just flat out, this is what we've always done, so we're going to continue to always do it. And so the meditations kind of it deepens your awareness of yourself, and so from there it becomes easy to see um, what is adding things to your life that are like, positive, evolutionary, that kind of thing, and what is sort of stuff that's really baggage at this point and what needs to be let go of. And letting go of things is just part of the deal. It's part of being human. It's part of living longer and longer and longer. And so the goal in life is not to never let go of anything. And in fact, the faster we can recognize that something needs to go and actually let it go, the healthier we will be. We are energetic beings, and energy is meant to flow. It is not meant to be held and grasped and, contained. And that is how a lot of disease starts. So, meditation has also been found in studies. People have studied this as far as focus and memory retention, and in general, your attention span. It's been shown to increase that in as little as 10 minutes a day for 8 weeks. So it's not a lot of time. It's the impacts, positive impacts are almost instant, but it's like widespread. And so imagine if you had more focus and you could actually put your focus then on things you really enjoyed. Like it would almost be like you've got a superpower all of a sudden because you're spending less energy doing things that you actually like, and you have the ability to focus on them more than you did before when you were doing something you kind of dreaded or really didn't want, or wasn't going to enjoy a whole lot. Now, in 2018, they did a study of 60 people, and they were in treatment for alcohol use disorder, which I think is just a generic term for alcoholism. But I'm not a scientist, so I don't exactly know what the difference is there. But anyways, they linked meditation with lower stress levels, reduced psychological distress, reduced cravings, and lower alcohol use after 3 months. And so when we get in touch with, that divine energy, the source, spirit, whatever you want to call it, when we connect that with our souls, with our hearts, which is how, that is what meditation is all about, is to kind of, it brings you back to your timeless self, which is essentially your soul. It's not your ego self that you're connecting with. It's your actual true, tried and true, the one that's been here forever and will be here forever. Like your soul, your energetic self, the one that does not have a birth or a death date. It is just forever. And so when we get into that, we find a lot less desire for addictive behaviors, because we are not trying to, you know, shove something under the rug for the 55th time or keep something in the closet for the millionth time. Like, we are just honestly living our lives in a way that we love and makes us happy. And when we can get to that point, I think the amount of addictive things that this our society is, like our race, a human race, uses to cope with some of the things that we're dealing with, I think it'll be far, far reduced. And this study just is sort of one hint or evidence of it, as it relates to alcohol use. And that one sort of stuck out with me since I do have, in my family line, alcohol was a little bit of a favorite. So, so it kind of rings true, for me as far as my past history as well. And so meditation can also reduce negative feelings and it increases creativity. And that is, again, it all goes back to the same thing. If we're meditating to engage our souls in a relationship with us, like with our, with our human being, um, that's going to bring us inner peace. That's going to bring us more creativity because we're, I guess the thing is too, if we're meditating, we may, come to realize some hard truths. And, maybe that's when, it's like, okay, well, I don't want to know that. I can't possibly do that. So we have to sort of, I think that's the beauty of meditation too, is that it's not like, we all know, if we ask, if you didn't have to tell me who you were, if it was anonymous and it was just like, if you had all the money, if you had all the time, if nobody cared, everyone would still love you, kind of thing, what would you spend your time doing? How would you spend your life? You could write me something, you could tell me something almost right away, because I would say most people, they know what's really in their heart. They know what it is. It's just, it's not the right time, or it's not the right, you know person. It's not the right, I have a good job, I can't possibly do this other thing, and so on and so on. So we spend our lives putting off our heart's desires, and this causes us to require, potentially addictive substances or habits. um it depresses us, it causes us anxiety. It's like, it's so natural, like the way that we are then trying to medicate ourselves into, like, it's not that big a deal, I'll just do this maybe for the rest of my life, I don't know. But if we opened up the relationship with our soul and just through meditation, you're giving your soul, your hopes and dreams, kind of the oxygen that they need to maybe manifest into the world in your lifetime. And that is a beautiful thing. To acknowledge that this is a dream of yours, to acknowledge that, this is something you'd like to look into further, to acknowledge that maybe you said some really mean things to somebody and you probably should forgive, apologize. Whatever it is, meditation is sort of like a way to begin to have a relationship with your soul that's very honest and just real. And as you give yourself space to play with these dreams, to play with these realizations, and to do something with them. It doesn't have to be something that you, like, you quit your job, you quit your marriage, you quit everything, and you just move to the country, all in a week. It doesn't need to be that. We don't need to be so all or nothing. It could be a gentle shifting in your life. that over time makes a big difference. There's that analogy with the plane where if you set a plane to 1 degree difference, um, as far as its endpoint, like its trajectory, the endpoint is like, if you're flying across the world, it could be so far, the distance between the original location or endpoint, and if you changed it by 1%, and then they still flew for like 6 hours or something like that. And so that's what you could do too. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I can't acknowledge this or my life is going to turn upside down. We can kind of get comfortable with it. We can feel into it. We can explore it. There's no time um, frame associated when you're meditating. Meditating is just, it's timeless. It's just the present moment. And that's it. And so to just open yourself up to that, and as your creativity, as your inspired actions kind of, as you notice them or recognize them, maybe you take action on them. Maybe you, like, the smallest step forward is still a step forward and it's still in the direction of your dreams. And that is going to automatically make you feel like your life has more meaning. You're going to feel more pleasure in your life because you're actually doing something that you really love to do. Or you're going to hang out with people that you really love to hang out with. You're going to, not have this baggage where you feel like you had a fight 10 years ago about something and you haven't talked to your sibling since, kind of thing. And maybe there's some reconciling that can be done there. Maybe you see things differently. Meditation is so, so fascinating. So fascinating as far as the way that it really brings up different things. But if you're willing to kind of just be in it, you don't have to solve anything. You just have to, just notice it. And then whether you want to act on it or not is, again, it's a choice. But it is the truest journey you can go on in your life, is to be in your life as your actual authentic self, and to let go of all the external distractions, roles, everything, and just be honest with yourself. And then therefore from there, be honest with other people about where you're at, what you'd like to do, hopes and dreams, all that juicy stuff. And you never know, you might just inspire somebody else to be like, oh yeah, that's cool. I like that for you, And then they're thinking like, oh yeah, I should do my thing. I haven't thought about that for ages, and I wonder how that could work, I did a podcast way back at the beginning that was one of the questions to ask is like, how can I make my life work better for me? Um, and that's part of the whole thing, is like, how can I add some more zhuzh to this life where I feel kind of more engaged in it, more excited about it, more like a co-creator, not just a victim of whatever your situation is, right? And so that's just such a ripple effect from meditation. Because when you are connected to your inner world and like drop the distractions and drop the expectations that others have, you can really, really um, create a life that you love. It means that fulfills, that just, it has so much satisfaction to it that is almost something that people don't even think that they can have at this point, and it is totally within your reach. All right, and the last thing I just want to finish up with, and probably the most important point, I think, of all of the topics, is that our imagination impacts our physiology. It impacts our whole like mind, body, soul connection. And we have, kind of the default is having the ego mind kind of nagging and bitching and complaining about, how to keep us safe and how to not do anything new because we don't know, we're sort of scared and we're not sure, and da da da. And we have sort of all accepted that as That's just the way that is. But I challenge you to consider using your imagination for good. And what I mean by that is, we can go down rabbit holes of fear. No problem. We can visualize a whole scenario, multiple scenarios, any endless everything. And it can just lock us into this super fear based, like, oh my God, like, I don't even know. How is the world even still here? Uh, and that, and we can do that beautifully, freak the friggin' shit out of ourselves. And, our bodies are into like a literal physical response to our mind's imagination. And so I challenge you to start using meditation. There's lots of different types of meditation. There's soul journeys that are similar to meditation. There's a lot of ways we can use our imagination, and through meditation, through just daydreaming almost, um, that we can use it for good. And so to, again, allow yourself some time to to literally experience in your mind's eye, how would your life look if you did, if something that you're dreaming of doing, if you actually did it, how would your life look? And you can go into a very detailed daydream visualization, whatever you want to call it, of your life and how you would be with people, where would you be living, what would you be doing, how would you be being, for lack of a better way to say that. Uh, and it can be just as detailed as a fear-based one, but it's actually a dream, and it's one you love, and it's like joyful and loving and exciting, and your body is responding to that physically in all the good ways. You're literally feeding yourself good, hormones, good chemicals, and so why not spend some time doing that on a regular basis, where you are fueling your physiology, your body, to recognize that your hope and your dream is like a safe place, it's a happy place. We all love the place. And when you do get opportunities to move towards that, then you will no longer have like a fight or flight or fawn, whatever that is, however that goes, response, because you've already trained your body and mind to like completely recognize that as like, this is for me. And the really important thing about that is that, or to recognize, is that our minds and our body has it's they're not on linear time. If we are visualizing something, it does not have, like, our body is responding to that as if it's truly happening to us. It has no ability to distinguish between a daydream and an actual literal thing that happened in, our 3D life. And so that is extremely important information to realize, and to then use your visualization, your imagination, your daydreaming, your meditation journeys to really open up like possibilities for your mind, for your life, for your body, so that all of you, in all your timeless energetics and all of your physical body humanness, all of it is like rooting for this new thing, because it thinks that it's already had it. It recognizes it as like, oh yeah, we've done this before. There's no problem. And so your ego mind quiets down. It's not as freaked out because it's already, it's experienced it before. And so it recognizes it as same. And it's like, hey, more of that, no problem. You know, so that's one really powerful way that meditation can kind of bridge the gap between the hopes and dreams you have for the future and how you're like to sync up the vibrations, how your body, your ego is not going to be like freaked out, like, this is not safe, this is new, what are we doing? It's something you've like, visualized, something you've dreamed of for ages. And so now the vibrational match is there. and to just get away from, spending time down the fear rabbit hole, alternate that with the good, happy, dream filled rabbit hole. I don't know if we call that a rabbit hole or not, but it's like if we can do that, we can use those skills. They're great skills. We have them and we use them to our detriment most of the time, and to start using them to our betterment. And meditation is a tool that is kind of a door opening to using your mind and um, the gap that you find when you're in meditation to kind of infuse it with your hopes, your dreams, and your desires for the future. All right, I think that's it for now. That was probably lots. Just hopefully that gave you some thoughts to chew on, some information to consider. Um, I would, of course, highly recommend meditation in your life. I am actually going to put together an experience that involves kind of meditation, mindset, like frequency, and self-care practices. I'm going to put them all together in an experience of some sort. I'm still writing it out a bit, so I don't have it totally sussed out, if you want to say that. But so that we can go through this experience and actually experience something instead of just mentally thinking about it and considering it, to actually just give it a go, and see what your experience is with your life and how it impacts and how it opens you and how it improves your life. Especially when you I'm presenting it as sort of like a couple of week thing. And so you can suspend your belief or limiting belief for that amount of time and just kind of play around with it. So if you are interested in something like that, definitely visit my website, get on my mailing list, because that is the first place that I will let anyone know about it. And so that would be the best way to make sure that you don't miss out and miss that opportunity, because I think it'll be fun and it'll be interesting, and hopefully, it'll expand your life in ways that you weren't too sure could really happen until you tried. All right, so I will see you on the next episode. Oh yeah, and my website is lisanicol.ca. So lisanicol.ca. And I'll leave that link in the show notes as well, so you can find it easy enough. All right, have a beautiful day, and I will see you in the next episode.